Welcome back. This should be a fun one. I wasn't actually going to do this video today, but as I was looking ahead towards, if you're watching this as I'm publishing it, the Super Bowl is this weekend, Eagles Chiefs. And so I felt compelled to put together a video about how to prepare for the big game. This was an article that I wrote many years ago on sportscastersclub.com, and it's a topic that sports broadcasters talk about all the time, certainly in my classrooms and with the students that I worked with, because they always wonder, someday if I'm fortunate enough and lucky enough to broadcast the big game, whatever that is, how do I prepare? How do I get ready? And so in this video, we're going to cover the three important topics, the three ways that you should focus on preparing for the big game. And I'm also going to give a bonus, which some of you might not like too much, but trust me, it's very important. So I get the inspiration about this video because it's the Super Bowl. It's the Chiefs, it's the Eagles. Regardless who you're rooting for, that's fine. I do know someone who picked these two teams to be in the Super Bowl based on the colors of their uniforms throughout the playoffs, and she was 100%. She says the Eagles are going to win. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I know the audience is probably split. But if you're preparing for the big game, I always think back. Obviously it's going to be Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady broadcasting the Super Bowl. And so I make this video not only because I did work with Kevin as a broadcaster 30 years ago. We broadcast football and basketball together. But also because it's the big game. And I won't play video of Kevin and I. I obviously don't have his permission to do so, and plus I was pretty bad. So I'm not going to put that out here on the air. Maybe someday, but not right now. But there are three ways that you want to prepare for the big game. The first way is by knowing everything you can know about the two teams. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of research. And what I mean by everything you can know, obviously it's the basics. As a football broadcaster, you may know that they have spotting charts. And so you've got all the players lined up by position. And on the spotting chart, you'll have their height, their weight, their hometown, their statistics, any of the important information in the little box. And one of these days, I'll pull out some of my old spotting charts and show you what they look like. I got them from Marty Glickman, who was the legendary New York Giants broadcaster in the NFL. But the point of the matter is, you've got to know everything about these two teams. Everything there is to know. Not just their height, weight, statistics, but you need to find out what my friend Bill Rogan used to say, the tidbits. You've got to have tidbits because tidbits make a broadcast. So you want to know things about their family, how they grew up, things about their collegiate life, things about their interests off the field. Any of those things that can help paint that picture and make an interesting broadcast. And so you just want to do a lot of preparation. So I can imagine that this week, both Kevin and Tom are doing a ton of preparation, to know everything they can possibly know. And they'll probably use about 1% of what they have compiled, just based on the situation and what the situation calls for. If it's dictated for that, then you'll use that piece of information. And so that's the number one thing. Know everything you can know about the two teams. Pretty obvious. Number two builds on that a little bit. But the number two way to prepare for the big game is to talk to everyone around the team that you can. Every coach, every player, every support staff member, every media member, everyone around that team. When they travel, they've got dozens and dozens of people that travel with them. And it's so much easier now because you can see who these people are because of social media. And by the way, number one is easier too, preparing to know everything about these teams. So you want to talk to everyone you can because they are the ones that are going to help you gather that information from step number one. You're going to be able to talk to media members and they'll be able to tell you some of the trends going on with the team, some of the emerging ideas going on with the team, what's really been happening, what's been going on with practices, how things have played out over the season. And I'm talking obviously NFL here now, but it could be anything. It could be a high school championship you're preparing for in any sport. You want to talk to everyone around that team to find out what's important, because stats don't tell you what's important all the time. Looking at a biography, just the nuts and bolts about a player, don't always tell you what's important. But you may talk to that media member who says, you know what, so-and-so has had a really tough second half because he's been dealing with this injury. But now he's 100%, so he's going to have a strong game. Well, that's important information, and you can follow up in the proper ways with the trainers and with the player himself. But the only way you know those things is by talking to everyone you can around the team. So that's number 2. So we said, number 1, research everything you can about the two teams. Number 2, talk to everyone that you can, players, coaches, anyone surrounding the team. And number 3, oh, this is so important, and I bet you, well, I know he's excellent at it because this is Kevin Burkhardt's second Super Bowl that he has broadcast. The number 3 tip, understand your audience. Now that might sound basic, or it might be confusing to some of you. Here's what I mean. Depending on where you're broadcasting, your audience is different. If I'm, let's say, the New York Mets broadcaster, and they're in the playoffs, and I'm the radio broadcaster, my audience has been listening to me throughout the entire season. So they know the storylines, they know the players, they know the team. So I'm talking a little higher level to them because I assume they already have a bunch of knowledge. Let's take Kevin Burkhardt and the Super Bowl, for example. This is the biggest football game of the year, and a large portion of the audience is either non-football fans, they're just at a party watching the game, or they're not experts on the sport, or they're not experts on the team and the players and the storylines. So more than any other, I think, definitely more than any other, the Super Bowl, you're broadcasting for a different audience than you had throughout the regular season. Kevin's done games for Fox all year long on TV. And they tend to skew more football fan, more football expert, more football regular. But now in the Super Bowl, Kevin is going to be talking to moms and dads, brothers and sisters, who maybe this is the only football game they've watched all year. And that's very important because you will notice, as he did during his first Super Bowl, he will talk about some of the storylines. Some of them I don't even want to get into regarding the Chiefs. And I've got 2 teenage daughters, you know what I mean. But he's going to talk about some of the storylines that perhaps and most likely much of the audience has no idea about. And that is what makes the real top-notch broadcaster. It's really the kind of thing that Kevin did when he was preparing, when we did high school games together 30 years ago, and he would prepare to this level. That was for a high school game, a Patterson Catholic game, a Don Bosco game, one of the games in New Jersey where we worked together. But it's no different in the Super Bowl. And you've got to know your audience, what their expertise level is, what's going to be most important to them, what's going to resonate the most with them. And that's what you've got to focus on. So you watch. I guarantee you, there will be a lot of things that you say, well, I know that about that player. I know that about Patrick Mahomes. I know that his father was a Major League Baseball player. But half of the audience may not know that, probably doesn't know it. Maybe by now, because he's been in the Super Bowl repeatedly. But it's important to know your audience to know what's going to be important to them. So that's the third tip. So that's important. I'm going to give you the bonus, but before I do, I'm going to recap. Research everything you can about the two teams. Talk to everyone you can around the two teams. Number 3, understand your audience. Here's the bonus. Oh, the bonus, and I know Kevin would agree with this. The bonus about preparing for the big game is that, yes, you can cram, but you're really preparing your entire life. That's the truth. You're preparing your entire life. The way you prepared when you were 18 years old doing a high school game in northern New Jersey on Thanksgiving when it was rainy and 28 degrees and cold and you're dressed in a big parka. We did that one year. But the way you prepare for that game establishes the habits in the way you're going to prepare your entire career. And the things you learn about the sport and about players and about the teams and about NFL history and about any of the things that go into that sport and that game, you've learned throughout a lifetime. So it's very important to remember, yes, like an exam, you can cram and you can focus for a week or 2 weeks to really have all the information you need. But much of what you'll see in the big game are things that have been built up over a career. And for this point, I'll talk about Tom Brady on color. He's going to be talking a lot from experience and knowledge that's been gained over his lifetime. It's not as much about what he learned the past 2 weeks or this season. It's about his preparation over a career. And whether you're doing play-by-play or color, it's the same. So when you watch Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady call the Super Bowl this weekend, think about these 3 things and the bonus, and I guarantee you that they're going to really do a great job focusing on these 3 things. And that's why I'm sure they're going to have a great broadcast, because they're excellent. I mean, Kevin has just been phenomenal his entire career and has always met that bar of what you expect of a premier sportscaster, and that's why he's doing the Super Bowl. So I hope you enjoy the game. Hope this was helpful. Subscribe if you're interested in becoming a sports broadcaster or a better sports fan, and we'll see you next time.